Welcome. My name is Bill Morella. I'm the CEO of Actex Learning, and today's topic is getting and succeeding in your first actuarial position. I am very pleased to have joining me today Cameron Retman. He is a newly hired actuarial student at a major corporation, and he's been working now for around 3 to 4 months in the field. And welcome, Cameron.
It's great to be here.
So for other students that are watching this video that might still be at the university, tell me and tell them a little bit about your job search and how you went about it.
Yeah, so the main driver of my job search was going to actuarial conventions. So in particular, I went to the ASNA convention. There I was able to meet a lot of employers looking to hire actuarial co-ops or interns. And that's where I landed my first and second internships. And from there on, I was able to interview for full-time positions within those companies and eventually get a job as an entry-level full-time position. And then I'd also say another thing that I used to search for jobs was LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a feature where you can search for particular companies or particular roles. So I'd have anything that said actuarial or actuary or co-op within the filter, and it would notify me every so often. So that was really helpful too, just knowing what was out there, being able to see job descriptions, what they were looking for, and trying to build my resume towards that goal of being able to achieve those job requirements.
That's awesome. That's very thorough. Yeah, you can use LinkedIn to search that way, and you can actually search for the hiring personnel sometimes by the keywords of actuarial executive development program, and those people are run their programs. So sounds like you were very thorough. So you're a good interviewee. What about on-campus recruiting? Tell me, what role did that play?
Yeah, so we've had some companies come to our school and they kind of tell us about their company, what it's like to be an intern, what they offer students, like if they pay for exams or pay for exam materials. So those have been really helpful just to get to know about the life of working at that company and get to know if that company is a good fit for you. I'd say they also tell you kind of when you would apply, like what month to expect applications to open. So that was really helpful if you were interested in any of those companies that visited. I'd say they were less interested in hiring at the campus. Like actuarial conventions seem more like they want to hire you in that realm and get to interviewing from there. Those university visits, I'd say, are more just getting you to know about the company, but they definitely were really helpful and informative to attend.
Right. So depending on the venue, they're doing like in-person interviewing right there, and sometimes it's just more informational.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So what do you feel like the decision criteria was that these employers were using, sort of the most broadly? I'll ask that, and then maybe specifically about yourself, what do you think jumped out that made them attracted to you as a candidate?
Yeah, so when I was at these conventions, I'd say they paid most attention to people who had at least one exam. I think that really makes you stand out because there's a lot of people who don't have exams and there's some that do have exams. So it's a really easy way to focus on a certain group of people because it just shows you're really interested in the career path and you took the time and effort to study for the exam and pass it. So that was really helpful having an exam done for the convention. And then I'd say next, they really like to see extracurriculars on your resume, being involved, showing leadership skills or any other types of skills, even past experience, I'd say past work experience, any way that you can translate skills that would be useful for their company, they can appreciate, I'd say. But I'd say the main thing is having like one extra exam or more that really helps to get your first internship.
Right. And then once you have that internship, then it puts you, further along down the path to getting your first full-time job. Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think it's also just sort of piggybacking on what you were saying is that they are essentially looking at for future leaders at their company, people that are going to rise up the ranks, take on a management position, et cetera. So if you can demonstrate communication skills, leadership skills, or at least the potential for it, right? You're not going to walk in and have a staff. But
Yeah.
I think that that's really important. Um, Great. In terms of the process for you, were you fortunate enough to have, like multiple offers and you had to pick between them, or how did the end game kind of come out for you?
Yeah, so when it came to my internships, I did have multiple offers. The way that the convention was ran, you kind of met with the companies on, I think, Friday, and then you'd hear back and figure out if you had gotten an interview by Saturday morning, and then you'd be doing interviews all of Saturday. So I interviewed with quite a few companies and got quite a few offers. So that was overwhelming, but I guess it's good to have more than none.
Exactly. And for those listening, just one is good. Like getting your foot in the door, like the hardest job to get as an actuarial student really is your first, I think. And then after that, you develop experience and headhunters start calling you and you use your LinkedIn profile to just move up the corporate ladder. So that's great. All right. So now you've been employed since May. So for the listeners, that's about three to 4 months, I guess. And tell us about your typical day. I guess we'll start there, and then I'm interested to hear some advice from you.
Yeah, so for a typical day, I feel like a lot of people agree with me. There's not like necessarily some routine. Like it's nothing like always the same thing every day. It's usually not repetitive. But I'd say mainly you're having a meeting discussing what needs to be done for the upcoming week or upcoming months, what projects you're working on. So usually you have a meeting a few times a week. A lot of the time I'm using Excel. Microsoft Excel is widely used at my company, and understanding it and understanding how to use different functions and formulas is really helpful. Um, so being skilled in that is really helpful. And then another program that my company uses is GGY Access or Moody's Access. So that's, I think, used by a lot of life insurance companies, and that's pretty complicated program, I'd say. Like you can't learn it on your own, really. I think you can download it on your own. So you kind of learn that on the job, and you've got to really practice with it and read whatever notes there are on it, and hope your team can help you, I'd say.
Exactly. That's great information. Yes. And for anybody that's trying to be very ambitious, you have to learn that on the job. You can't learn GGY access except on the job. So don't Google that and try to think you can do that from your university. Um, Looking back to, let's say, somebody that's still at the university, is there any advice that you would give to those preparing now that you've had the benefit of obtaining and working full time at an insurer?
Yeah, so one, I would definitely say try to pass the NACFR exam. Like I said, that really helps you get an internship position or co-op position, and start applying for co-op or internship positions. Those are really helpful in getting your full-time position. It really shows you have some experience and show some skills, and then also can just get your foot in the door in general at that company. If you perform well and they like you, I think you'd have a good shot at getting in from a co-op position to a full-time position at the company you're co-oping at. So that's definitely a really good way to get an entry level or full-time position once you graduate. Um, as for maybe some skills, like you could try working on Excel, whether you're learning from some courses online or just any resources, just any type of practice, or taking any courses that um, at your university that might involve Excel. I think that's pretty helpful because Excel is used, I think, at a lot of companies. And then trying to get involved in extracurriculars in any way, trying to show any leadership, um, enhance your communication skills in any way, just getting involved. I think employers really like to see a well-rounded individual. So that means like actual exams, doing well academically, like a high GPA potentially, involved extracurricularly, and even maybe some work experience. So seeing those other internships or even just other types of work experience. It doesn't even have to be necessarily actuarial, even if it can translate in any way. I think that's really beneficial. So having that like well-rounded resume is really helpful. Like just only being really good at academics might not get you it. Just only being extracurriculars might not get you it. I'd say like having a good balance is really helpful.
Yeah, perfect. Are there, in terms of the technical skills, you mentioned Excel and, obviously GGY Access, but are there specific functions? Is it, VBA? Is it like, tell me on a daily basis, because that's a big pool. Like, can you narrow it down a little bit and say, advise people to focus on specifics within the Excel universe?
Yeah, VBA, I don't personally use VBA. I know some people do. I have used it for other internship roles in the past, but currently I don't really use it. So it may benefit you to learn it, it may not. I'd say more, it's just the functions within Excel. I wouldn't say you have to memorize like every function and formula that's in it, but I'd say be aware of what Excel is capable of and have an idea of how to use it. I mean, you have the internet at your fingertips to maybe research and look up how to solve something that you're trying to do. So if you just kind of understand a little bit of how it works, that's a great way to have a head start. So even I see some functions you should understand. They're like E lookup, H lookup, X lookup, um, index and matching. Pivot tables are pretty important. I'd say I work with pivot tables a lot because you're manipulating data. And then you also want to be able to present data well. Like if you're presenting to higher up actuaries, you're going to want to turn these charts into graphs. And you want to look nice. You want it to be clear and concise and labeled correctly so that it's as easy to understand as possible. So kind of just data visualization in Excel is pretty helpful. And I'd say that's probably the main thing.
I think those are excellent points. Yeah, the data visualization, presentation, pivot tables, those are the things that kind of expected to hear, and they are super important, and they're going to be important for years in your career, right, as you move forward. And something that comes up a lot is being able to explain very technical data, technical concepts to less technical individuals within the company. And that's a real skill. So you're not always going to be talking actuary to actuary.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, I mean, this has been so helpful. Is there any final advice you might have, Cameron, for students before we sign off?
Yeah. So I'd say if you're in university right now and you want to get a full-time position, say you have like a specific company or role in mind, I'd say start looking now at like the application and kind of see what they're looking for. So say what the job requirements are. Maybe they're looking for at least 2 exams. Maybe they're looking for some leadership skills and whatnot. Excel skills. So now that it's 2 years before you might, or 3 years, or however many years before you might actually apply for that job, just have an idea of what they'd be looking for. So when you are ready to apply for it, you have built your resume up for that. So I'd say that definitely helped me because the first time I started applying for internships, I was applying for summer ones. So it was around like the springtime when I was applying. And I wasn't really getting anything because I didn't have actuary exams, and I was seeing they all wanted actuary exams, and it was too late. Like you can't just write them the next week. So have it planned in advance. Kind of start looking now at the jobs you want for a year from now or 2 years from now, and then that'll definitely get you a better footing to be able to get in, make your resume better, and interview better, and hopefully get the job.
That's outstanding advice. It gives you, if you look at what they're looking to hire for, it provides a roadmap for you, is essentially what you're saying, but more eloquently. And I think that's great. I think we'll probably have to end it there. Cameron, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing this with other actuarial students. It's going to be available, I think, for quite a long time here on YouTube, and I think a lot of students are really going to benefit. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.